Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to No Final Bell, as we are going to be talking about AEW Dynamite, Rampage, Battle of the Belt 6, as well as ending with ROH.
Yes.
Any objections to that? I don't think so.
All Tony Khan based this week.
Mm-hmm. So,
Well, okay. So before we get into everything, though, I do actually want to mention one thing that's not. Um, so, and normally we don't talk about Impact along with, but there's one thing that I did want to touch upon from Impact this past week. Um, Josh Alexander did have to relinquish his Impact World Championship, and there was a bit of a heart wrenching moment that happened where Josh Alexander's 4-year-old son, Jet, snatched the world title out of Josh Alexander's hands before he was going to give it to Scott D'Amore. Jet didn't want to, give up. Jet did not want his father to surrender the world championship, basically. And both his mom and his father, both his mother and his father, both had to console him and be like, "Hey, bud, we got to do this. I know you're not happy about it just as much as we're not happy about it, but hey, we got to give that title over." So,
also a little bit of news. It's been stated that maybe WWE would be smart and not have to deal with him. Unfortunately, Logan Paul
yeah,
has re-signed with
yeah.
WWE.
Um, I personally, yeah. Moving on. Anyways,
So let's go on
yeah,
to
no, I just, I good for him.
yeah.
He's just not for me. He's not for either of us, really,
No, that's
actually.
why we
But
don't watch WWE again.
um,
Um, so we're gonna get on to the first match of onto Dynamite to start off with. So we got into our first match of the night, which happens between Juice Robinson and Ricky Starks. Right as um, Ricky Starks goes down into the ring and everything, about to get the match going.
we start hearing some music, but there's no Tron or whatever.
Out comes the Switchblade Jay White.
Yes, sir.
It starts beating down Ricky with Juice Robinson. They're back. And it becomes official that Jay White has signed with AEW.
He is
Thoughts?
all elite. Um, and this is another thing that happened this past week. Um, that we don't have notes for, but at what was it? Sakura Genesis, I believe it was for New Japan. Um, it was either Sakura Genesis or one of those. Um, but either way, at said show, David Finlay, who is apparently the new leader of Bullet Club, along with Kenta, kicked El Phantasmo out of Bullet Club. So now I think it's safe to say that where we're headed is a Bullet Club civil war, which wouldn't be the first time, by the way, because if I remember correctly, um, there was a bit of civil war in Bullet Club in New Japan between the Elite and Bullet Club because if you remember, there was a time when the Elite was like they were while they were still technically members of the Bullet Club, they were trying to like in a way like distance themselves from Bullet Club. So Bullet Club basically the remaining members there took offense to that and were like, hey, if you're Bullet Club, like you got to prove it.
Right.
And so it created this whole thing between God and I believe it's what led to a match between the Young Bucks and God, if I remember correctly. So Young Bucks obviously were part of the Elite, and then the God were still loyal to Bullet Club. And not for nothing, God has always been loyal to Bullet Club. Like they've pretty much been there since the beginning. Um, so, but either way, that's pretty much what it seems like they're leading to for Forbidden Door is
Mm.
potentially a Bullet Club civil war between like Jay White, essentially like AEW Bullet Club, versus David Finley's Bullet Club in New Japan. So,
Right.
and like what that could mean is like potentially we get Jay White, Juice Robinson, and El Phantasmo against potentially David Finley, definitely Kenta, but the third person is like still a mystery at this point. I mean, for all we know, it could be Evil, it could be Dick Togo. At least as far as I know, he's still in Bullet Club. It could even be like Taiji Ishimori. Like Bullet Club has a lot of members, so it could, you know, they could easily find a third person. At least, David Finley's
Right.
side.
Um, I mean, I honestly think this is a good signing for AEW.
Oh, absolutely.
WWE, if they were cared more about, not trying to have one man controlling the whole entire thing, even with selling,
Well,
then maybe you would have had a chance to go after Jay White. But I don't think Jay White's that kind of sports entertainer. He's a freaking professional wrestler through and through, and he made the right choice with going with a pro wrestling company than a fucking sports entertainment company.
well, I
Excuse
look at it
my
this way
language.
too. I look at it this way too. If not AEW, I could have seen him landing in Impact because while AEW has a working relationship with New Japan, so does Impact. And not to mention, it would make sense if he had gone to Impact and not AEW. Like, I mean, either way, like, it would have made sense for AEW or Impact as opposed to WWE because, Impact makes sense because, first of all, he recruited Chris Bay to Bullet Club and Ace Austin. He's pretty much the reason why those two men are even in Bullet Club to begin with.
Right.
So, and then basically there would be like it would kind of be the same thing. It would be like a power struggle in Bullet Club of like, okay, well, New Japan has their leader in David Finley, or at least, but Impact has their own Bullet Club with what they say is the leader, who they say is the leader, and who never like technically lost his leadership, Jay White. So either way, if he had gone to Impact, it still would have played up to this like Bullet Club power struggle.
Hmm.
But I think the power struggle within AEW and having Jay White makes more sense because then it can actually lead to Forbidden Door. You
Possibly.
know,
Well, so we got into our next thing. Chris Jericho um, week prior comes out after Adam Cole's match against Daniel Garcia and it looks like he's done with the disrespect because he got all the praise, he got the confetti, he got the kiss from the girl, he got
Mm-hmm.
the celebration, but Daniel Garcia did not get any kind of celebration. Neither did Jericho or Jericho Appreciation Society. So he's done with the disrespect. Then Keith Lee, who has a different look to him, joins the interview and says Jericho should know about giving out disrespect. Um, Even though he is, Keith Lee also talks about how he's had a couple wars with Adam Cole. Says he respects him even though he's not fond of him. And that later tonight in Milwaukee, he wants to teach Chris Jericho a few things about respect. Thoughts? Um, Now, I will say, Keith Lee, I would have said, you better watch who you're calling out. But to be honest with you, Jericho should be fearful of the kind of man that Keith Lee can be in the ring. Because I don't think these two men have ever faced each other in the wrestling ring before.
No, they
So
haven't.
it's going to be interesting to see how they'll mesh against each other. Chris Jericho better watch out for that pounce
Yeah.
because Keith
Well,
Lee is
not to mention,
gonna
let's
bring
not
it to
forget
Chris
about what
Jericho.
Keith Lee has done to Isaiah Cassidy in his debut match for AEW.
But I will say this: that Keith Lee, I think, will have to watch out for the Jericho Appreciation Society in this match. I think they're gonna have a lot to say what's gonna happen and the outcome of it. Um, it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna back up Keith Lee here against the Jericho Appreciation Society too.
Well, that's the thing. What about Dustin Rhodes? Because he had, it seemed like that's where that was going. Of like, oh,
Dustin is
hey,
kind of on the
like that.
back burner. I
Yeah,
don't know, so
he's contemplating his career at this point. In a way, he's like kind of teasing retirement.
personally, I
So,
want to say Keith Lee might get the edge here, but honestly,
yeah,
don't be shocked if Jericho Appreciation Society gets involved and gets the victory
right.
and helps him win against Keith Lee.
Um,
Because we haven't seen Keith Lee in a really, really
so,
long time.
so to get back onto the subject of Dustin Rhodes, if he's heading in that direction, at least have him win a world title. It doesn't even have to be the AEW world title. Like, have him, like, you could even have him uh, with a run, go on a run with the ROH world title. Just as long as you
Personally, I
give
just don't
him,
think he's the right guy to even defeat Claudio for the ROH World Title right now. To be honest with you, and it's not disrespecting Dustin Rhodes.
yeah,
It's
no,
just
I mean, but
Claudio is just way too good. I mean,
Claudio is too much of a workhorse to have, to be defeated, and Claudio is also a lot more respected as a champion than so like it would kind of be a little like not necessarily demoralizing for
mhm.
Claudio, but in a way, I mean, losing to somebody the caliber of, and I'm not like, it's just a tough situation if you were to put the title on Dustin because, like, on one hand, he deserves it because he's a freaking legend, but on the other hand, it kind of hurts Claudio because he's this honorable, no pun intended, honorable champion, and then here you have Dustin Rhodes, a living legend, defeat him for this championship, and it's like, yeah, maybe not. So maybe if I was doing that, I would have somebody else dethrone Claudio, and then, you know, like I would have that person who defeats Claudio potentially be a transitional champion so that they can give it to Dustin.
Right. So, then we go into our next match as the World Trios Tag Team titles are on the line between the House of Black and Best Friends and Orange Cassidy.
The first of 3 title matches.
4.
Was it 4? What was the 4th one?
You got the World Trios,
Yeah.
the Women's, the FTW title.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And the Women's World title.
And tag team.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's right.
But honestly, in this one, you thought maybe there would have been a glimmer of hope that the Best Friends of Orange Cassidy would be able to beat House of Black, but House of Black are just on a tear.
I mean, come on, man. They had that special entrance where Sue. We got the return of Sue.
Yeah, Sue in her new minivan. But it does look like the House of Black do have some opponents lurking around in Roosh, Jarlistigo, and Preston Vance. So,
Yes, LFI. La Facción Ingobernables.
yeah, they're looking like they go after those World Trios Tag Team titles, and honestly, all the power to them because they've been one hell of a faction on ROH if anybody has been watching it.
Okay, weird idea for Forbidden Door, but in a way it's something that I would like to see. How about LFI versus LIJ? Because, like, let's face it, they're practically one and the same. I mean, La Facción Ingobernables, Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Okay. But honestly, ultimately in this match, the House of Black do retain. But again, I mean, it seems like teams are lurking after these World Trios Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
It really does. Honestly, I mean, House of Black are just dominant right now. You know, you don't know when they're gonna truly lose. They are the most dominant trio
Yeah,
right now.
I know. And well, that's another thing too. Is like in a way, it kind of feels like there's no competition that's willing to step up to uh, the House of Black besides LFI right now. So I mean,
And personally, that's fine.
well, and I was gonna bring up potentially like Dark Order, but at this point, it seems like Dark Order is like uh, focusing on ROH right now. So, you know, like I would have said, you can throw in Uno Grayson and like either
Right.
John Silver or Alex Reynolds, but like I said, they're kind of tied up with
How about
ROH
this?
right now.
Why didn't Black Bull Combat Club get into the trios?
That's a very
Card
good point.
because they're on a tear as of late.
Yes.
Why don't they try to go after the World Trios Tag Team titles?
That's a very
Personally,
good point.
I would be okay with it. I mean, the only man that's got a title out of the 3 is Claudio. Why not give them a chance after the World Trios Tag Team titles? I'm hoping that's ultimately what's going to be Tony Khan's decision. Is you know what, Black Bull Combat Club have been on a tear.
Well,
They've
the
been
thing is,
going up the rankings in
yeah,
the trios division. Why not have them go after? And then Danielson, who somehow is randomly back with Black Bull. We'll talk about that later. But
like the weird thing to me at least is I don't know necessarily how a pairing of Danielson, Mox, and Yuta would really like. I know that Danielson and Mox before they even
I don't think Danielson would be part of that trios thing. I think it would be more so Moxley, Claudio, and
well, yeah, because
Wheeler Yuta.
that's the trio that has pretty much been synonymous in a way with the BCC, and then next thing you know, Danielson back in the foray, and now like so. But the thing about it is, Claudio's already got a belt, like you
Then
mentioned.
again,
So
it could end up being Danielson, Moxley, and Yuta because Claudio is, the world champion
yeah,
and dealing with ROH. So that might make more sense in that.
but that trio, like to me, just feels a little weird because like we already know that Moxley and Danielson can work together as a tag team, but then you add Yuta
Oh, I
and
think they
make it a
no. I
trio,
think they'll be able
and
to work as a trio, no problem. I'm gonna say that's what I would love to see. I would love to see House of Black in a Blackpool Combat Club at
but like
Double or Nothing for the
but
World Trios Tag Team
you
titles.
get where you see what I'm getting at though, right? Is like in a way it seems like they wouldn't really have a lot of chemistry because they never have teamed together like all three of them.
I get it, but I mean they got time.
I'm sure they can develop
They
chemistry the
can,
more that they team and the
right?
more that, but
All right, let's get as we get back on track here. Christian Cage is seen by a red um
yeah,
light
he's
in the
got a
room,
red light and then
and
he's smiling and next thing you know,
as Luchasaurus walks
Luchasaurus,
up and is back together with him, and Luchasaurus is back from
whatever he was.
thoughts on this one. I mean,
I'm pretty sure Luchasaurus was not dealing with an injury,
I'm pretty
so
sure
I
that
just think he kind
Luchasaurus
of took time off.
is going to get managed by Christian Cage, and then Christian and Luchasaurus is going to be on a great big tear. But
Well, that makes
please,
sense
to
because,
God, do not have him involved with Jungle Boy. I get Jungle Boy is in the
yeah,
world
yeah,
title picture. It's probably going to be It's probably going to be a fatal four-way match at Double or Nothing, and I'm all for it between Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and MJF.
yes.
The four
But
pillars of
I
AEW
agree.
facing off against for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship.
But I agree. Don't put Luchasaurus back in there with Jungle Boy.
Like you could have him, face off for a title because there's a TNT Championship, there's
Yeah,
the International Championship. Even if you want them to, be both together and team up and be in a tag division, I would be all for that. Just don't give him Jungle Boy at all.
yeah.
Jungle Boy is way more than going after Luchasaurus and Christian Cage all this time.
I mean,
You
after
already
all,
ended that feud. Just
yeah.
end it off of that.
Well, not to mention, Jungle Boy is already, in that high caliber um, thing with the world champion. Like
Exactly.
that's the direction they're going with Jungle Boy. And why would you end that just to like start back up a new program
See, this is
with,
already what's
you know,
better with with AEW than WWE is that they already know that they have these young guys that they're going to build a company for heading into the future. And now,
AEW is better at building younger stars than WWE
yes,
is.
I agree.
I
I,
mean,
you have to
like
because you're not going to keep
so
Omega forever. You're not going to
yeah.
keep Chris Jericho forever. You're not going to keep these great,
So
generational talents around forever because they're not going to be, spring chickens eventually.
yeah. So there's some truth to that statement. I mean, if you watch NXT, you can kind of see that they are at least trying to build up these new stars in like, Braun Breaker,
Carmelo Hayes.
Carmelo
Yeah,
Hayes, Sol Ruka,
right.
Lola Vice, Zoe Stark, Roxanne Perez. Like
But
watching
ultimately,
NXT is pretty much like WWE's way of building up new stars. But like honestly, a lot of those guys really don't get a chance to even shine on the main roster. I mean,
hmm
for example, look at Roderick Strong. He spent five Oh, I was gonna say no, longer than 5 because he
I'm
started.
hoping he's somebody that's gonna eventually wind up
It's been
wanting to
like
go to
7 years actually
AEW.
now. It's been like 7 years since Roderick Strong has been in NXT. 7 years, and he only really saw like technically one match on the main roster, and that was part of Survivor Series 2019, where they had Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And that
Yeah,
was
but
at
that
the
doesn't
time that
really
he was
count.
the NXT North American champion.
Right.
And yeah, yeah, that doesn't count because, like I said, like NXT was part of that, and like you know, so, but yeah, I mean,
Let's get on to our next match here as Jamie Hayter faces off against Riho.
this was a very good match.
Yeah, Riho, even though she's 95 pounds of soaking wet,
No, 98, 98.
close enough. But
She can like
she
and
can bring it for somebody that is very tiny and doesn't have a lot
yeah,
of muscle mass.
yeah,
Rio does, brought it to Jamie Hayter. There's a reason why she's the inaugural AEW
yeah,
Women's World Champion. But there's just something about Jamie Hayter that just defines what it's like to be the Women's World Champion right now, and she just brings it every night. And honestly, like I'm just sitting back and waiting until like how long is it going to be until Britt Baker turns on Jamie Hayter? Because I definitely think that's going to be coming sooner than later.
yeah. Well,
She's eventually going to be like, bitch, I was only here for the ride because you have something that I want.
and that's the thing too is like Britt Baker, at least to me, just works so much better as a heel than as a face.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
that's why I'm
cause
saying like she's just along the ride right now, out there with
yeah,
her
well,
so-called best friend.
and that's the thing
But
too
how
is
long is
like
that gonna
when
last until her and Rebel
yeah,
are back together,
well,
turning
that's
on
the thing
Jamie
too.
Hayter?
That's the thing too. When AEW first brought in Britt Baker, she was more of the like, oh, happy to be here type. She's like this happy-go-lucky girl that could possibly like, there's no wrong that could ever be done with her, like kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then you slowly started seeing the more confident she got, the more of a bitch she became.
Right.
And that's
Which don't
what
get me
propelled her
wrong. I
to
mean,
that.
she's not terrible as a wrestler at all.
No, no. I mean, she like. So here's the thing about Britt Baker. Like, she gets the job done, and
Hmm.
that's all she really needs to do. Because at the end of the day, she's a fucking dentist.
Well,
You know what I
the
mean?
thing about it is like, I get it. The wrestling thing is like a part-time thing for her,
Yeah.
and her main time gig is being a dentist. But the thing that I'm looking at here is you're okay with basically going out there being a manager to Jamie Hayter for what? Like you're a former women's world
Well,
champion. Wouldn't you want to eventually say like
well, here's the thing too.
enough is enough and wanting to get back
Enough
into the title
to
picture?
quote Owen Hart, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. I mean, it makes sense for Britt Baker. She is the inaugural Owen Hart Cup winner.
Honestly,
Enough is enough, and it's time for a
what
change.
better place to do it in Pittsburgh? I mean, they're going back to Pittsburgh very soon. What better way to have her turn on Jamie Hayter than there? Because right now,
I mean,
Jamie Hayter
obviously,
doesn't have an opponent for the Women's World Championship. I think it's the best time
well, actually,
to have
no.
Britt Baker.
Here's where I'm actually gonna say that you're wrong about having it in Pittsburgh. Because if you decide to have Britt turn on Jamie Hayter there, the fans are not gonna want to boo Britt Baker. And even then, Jamie Hayter is like the most organically over babyface right now in the women's division of AEW. So to have Britt turn on Jamie Hayter in her hometown, the fans would not want to boo her. So
I mean, that's true, but
it wouldn't be a good idea to do it in Pittsburgh. But I do eventually think
no, because honestly, I think I'm really thinking like when is it gonna be time? Like I get it, Tony
like I
Khan is
think we're
not
all wondering that.
somebody that's gonna like do a lot of things that like WWE would do, because WWE also would have done it already. But
Yeah,
this isn't a case where you kind of have to do like go with like a
you kind of have to let the
WWE kind
story
of
play out.
thing, because like deep down inside, and I've been saying it even when Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker had their problems, and then they kind of like they've had their problems in the past. They kind of resolved it and they're together. But how long is it going to be until Britt Baker is like, where jealousy is going to get to her and starts beating down on Jamie Hayter? Rebel comes out and then it's like, oh, I was just using you, Jamie, to get closer to the title. I want a piece of that. I'm a former women's world champion, and I want to be again the women's world champion because I'm Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Something like that. I would be honestly totally fine with. Speaking of women, the women's world title, the Outcasts say one of them will get the women's world title. Thoughts? Well, one of them definitely did have the title. If there's anybody, I think it's gonna be Soraya.
Saraya.
Soraya.
I don't know. I think it's going to be Ruby.
No, I think Ruby Soho has had so many opportunities to go after it that I just don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, yeah, you got a point there, but honestly, like,
because I really do think if it's not gonna be Britt at Double or Nothing, it has to be one of those three. They're gonna face off against Jamie Hayter for the title.
Well, at that point, then pull the trigger, give it to Ruby, because to your point, like you've already given her opportunity after opportunity to challenge for.
Yeah, but the thing is that if you do, and she somehow does win the big one at Double or Nothing, then it's gonna be like, does she deserve it? Is she gonna be a good champion?
Yeah.
She's had many opportunities. Like if you see, this is the problem with it. If you gave the title to Ruby Soho, it's like, okay, you gave her the title, but why didn't you give her the title like the 2 or 3 other times beforehand? That's the problem I have with that. That's why I think Saraya would make the most sense, because you haven't had her in an opportunity to fight for the world championship before. You give it to her, so she beats Jamie Hayter. I think it would be the best opportunity for AEW to give the title to her.
You don't want to immediately thrust her into that position. You want to make her earn it. But, I mean, yeah, like, because...
Well, if you think about it, I mean, we're still a little over a month away from Double or Nothing, which is May 25th in Las Vegas. This is where you have to start pulling the trigger and start hitting, getting the groundworks ready for storylines heading into the pay-per-view.
I just now realized that date and that arena is the exact same place, it's the exact same time, and the exact same date as the inaugural event that launched the promotion.
That's crazy.
May 25th, 2019, in T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Or no. They're in MGM, aren't they, for Double or Nothing this year?
I think so.
Well, either way, May 25th, 2019, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas was the inaugural.
25th or 27th. I don't really
No, it was
recall.
the 25th. It was
for this year's.
Oh yeah, no, it might be.
It might be Sunday 27th. Either way, personally, I think that one of them can be, and I think the only one that makes sense is Soraya. Because if you think about it,
It is May 28th.
oh, May 28th. Well, close enough. I mean, but Double or Nothing, I think it's going to be a great pay per view if they can build it correctly. Because you really, like, you're kind of hinting at, like, what's going to happen with it. But right now, it's kind of like there's so many other, like, things that's like, what, out of the blue right, out of the blue left. And I'm not talking anything political. I'm just talking about, like, the glue hasn't molded yet for a lot of these storylines, and you don't know exactly what they're gonna go, what kind of direction. The only real storyline that we know of that's probably gonna happen heading into Double or Nothing is a fatal four-way match for the world title.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's gonna happen with FTR with the tag team titles. We don't know what's gonna happen with the World Trios tag team titles. Um, God, we don't. I mean, I would think the other one too would be Jade and Taya for the TBS Championship.
Yeah.
Book it. It needs to happen.
Yeah. And if we're gonna do anything, have Taya be the one to dethrone Jade.
I agree.
What better way to bring in Taya Valkyrie, who has gone down as the longest reigning Knockouts champion in Impact history. Somebody who is the inaugural MLW, what is it, featherweight women's like champion, a belt collector basically, current AAA Reina de Reinas champion. Like, what better way to bring her in to AEW as this like huge star than to dethrone Jade?
Right. So we get on to our next little outcome here. Well, it was MJF Day
Yeah.
in Long Island, New York, and then MJF starts singing.
Well, more importantly, he won, or well, not won, but he was uh,
Awarded the key
yes,
to
thank you.
Long
I was going to
Island.
say not gifted, but awarded the key to the city of Long Island, New York, and then yeah, he starts singing. He gets into the ring. The what is it, like town supervisor of whatever like county they were in Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
Basically like made an improved version of like the key and
Yep, and then
declared that April
April
5th
5th will be officially
will
MJF
officially
Day.
be MJF Day in Long Island.
Yep, and then gets You Deserve It with claps.
Yeah.
Says that all the other challengers don't deserve it though. Says from a young age he suffered with attention deficit disorder.
To which that got an ADD chant. Only MJF can get a chant like that
asked
in his
to raise
hometown.
the volume on the mic so he doesn't have to hunch over. And then it's funny because even afterwards he just staying up, but then eventually after all the fact he hunched over again. Like,
yeah, so
why
like,
the hell would you ask for the
yeah.
volume to be raised and then hunch over again after the fact? Like, it makes no sense to me. But says he always wanted to be a professional wrestler since a young age, and says he has proven proven the doubters wrong. That if you want to be world champion,
you gotta bust your ass and work hard.
don't be
a Mrs. Benedict and be a stupid bitch. To which that got a chant.
And then says if you bust your ass, you can be what you want to be, except for him. Says he is MGF and I am better than you, and you know it.
and he was gonna start singing again because
And then he's like,
he asked he asked the crowd. He's like, "Do you want an encore?" To which one of them he was about to start singing, and there's somebody that gonged the cymbals or whatever. He's like, "Hey, bud, we rehearsed this. We talked about this. You don't have your moment or whatever when I have a live microphone in my hand, bud. Okay?" To which then you see the mask come down, the mask come off, and the hair comes back. It's Jungle Boy. He's gonna put a whooping. He's gonna put a
and then
beating
him
on
and
MJF.
MJF start beating each other down. And out comes Sammy Guevara as he is getting ready for his match. Looks down at the world title and holds it up. Shows it to both MJF and Jungle Boy Jack Perry while they are being held back.
I don't know how I feel about the possibility of Sammy Guevara being AEW World Champion. It was fine when he was a TNT champion, but like that's the thing is I've always kind of viewed Sammy Guevara as more of a mid carder, like not really a main eventer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no disrespect to Sammy, but like yeah, I just have never really viewed him as a main eventer. So
Honestly, at this point, I'm honestly all right with the match that they're going for heading into Double or Nothing. Honestly, I think it's going to be a really good match. They're going to bring
a fatal four-way between all four pillars of AEW for the AEW World Title is a statement I never thought I would be saying in the year 2023.
And then, speaking of Sammy Guevara, he gets onto his match against
my
Commander. Man, I tell you what,
oh my god.
he is the master of the ropes.
I have quickly fallen in love with him.
I'm sorry, Metalik. You might have to get pushed aside because I think we have found our new master of the ropes.
King of the ropes.
I don't think the young competitor of Commander.
Yeah, because not for nothing, Metalik. Can you walk a tightrope on the ropes? I don't think you can.
I mean he can do 450 splashes off the rope. He can do a shooting star press off the rope.
Yeah.
He can do a super long dive. Like he pauses in the air. Like that man can just do anything. Yeah. Sammy Guevara looked like he got out wrestled there. How he even was able to win this match is beyond me. Because Sammy Guevara,
he politicked.
Yeah, he probably did politic his way into a victory there.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Sammy Guevara does kind of seem like he does seem like the kind of person that would politic to go over somebody, but unless he felt he, I don't know.
And then says he does something MJF doesn't in wrestle. Look, I just did something that MJF doesn't do in wrestle. Says he has to cheat to beat him back in the day. And says his side wasn't built by him and had to use others to get there. Asks who MJF is and says he sold his soul to be a pillar. And Sammy built it by himself. Says he can get cheered or booed, and that AEW has helped him out in so many ways, and won't leave, and will be damned if some rich bitch from Long Island of all places tears everything down with the bidding war of 2024, and claims he will be the world champion. Thoughts?
Not happening. Not happening at all.
I don't think it's gonna happen, to be honest with you, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of match we're going to get in Las Vegas. I think we're going to get one hell of a fatal four-way main event, a Double or Nothing for the World Heavyweight Championship. There's not really much to say about this. Hook beats Ethan Page with the help of Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that was going to happen eventually. There's not really much.
You have written there, what does this mean? It means that the Firm and Hardy Party are no more, basically.
Yeah, I want to see what's going to truly go on next Dynamite. Ethan Page is like, "Hey man, what the hell was that?"
Well, I mean,
I think we're eventually gonna get a match between Ethan Page and Matt Hardy.
I kind of think it's gonna lead to more between like Hardy Party and Stokely, because Stokely's about as big a part of like everything as Ethan Page, because not for nothing, Stokely was the one that handed Matt Hardy that contract for and basically told Matt Hardy about his basically demotion to Dark Elevation, and that's where the whole Hardy Party, the Firm, Ethan Page like storyline delved from. So
Right. Yeah. So Tony Khan had a huge
Tony Khan's
announcement. All
major
right.
announcement. Well, first of all, let's not dismiss the fact. Sorry, let's not dismiss the fact that Tony Khan could not announce his major announcement without the help of AEW's newest signing, along with Jay White, Nigel McGuinness. Put your fingers up. Put your fingers up, people. Put your fingers up. Nigel McGuinness is signed to AEW, although I kind of think he'll be doing more with Ring of Honor. But so, yes, with that, though, Nigel McGuinness and Tony Khan and Adam Cole, baby, announced AEW All In live from London, England. Well, I don't know if it's gonna. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be live, but either way, AEW All In from London, England, Wembley Stadium.
Which will be the
Let me
biggest show
rephrase
in
that. Let me say that again.
the history of the company.
Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, there has not been
Wembley Stadium has not hosted a wrestling show since SummerSlam 1992.
Yeah.
Not to
crazy.
mention, Wembley Stadium also has a capacity crowd that can seat 80,000 people.
Well, 90,000 people, but honestly,
Still, I mean,
well, if you think about it, with the
AEW
stage and everything like that,
yes. To think that AEW could possibly sell out that venue is mind blowing. However, if it doesn't sell out, it's still going to be a milestone accomplishment for AEW that they were able to. I mean, because you think about it, they sell out. Well, at least maybe not so much recently.
I'm gonna say this now,
but they can do Arthur Ashe, which seats about what, like 40,000.
Yeah.
So it'd be basically double that.
I look at it this way: if AEW can somehow really fill up the seats, that's going to be a big slap in the face of the WWE, because that just proves that AEW is that top pillar, and that they can claim that. I don't know. Right now, AEW does not seem to struggle with selling seats as of late. Which is nice, because they for the longest time there, they were struggling.
Oh, I know.
For the longest time with selling seats. And
I'm gonna make a bold statement. I think this is basically their WrestleMania.
I will say this now. Truly, I really do think that AEW, if they can somehow, fill this arena, that WWE should be scared.
I agree. Because I said,
then
this is basically going to be their WrestleMania.
It's a great step forward in the right direction for AEW.
Yeah.
Even if they don't, it's still going to be a good step in the right direction, because then you know what you can build from here. So that if you can get to something like that again, then maybe this time you actually can.
Right.
You know, for all the people that said AEW is not going to last, you know, and that AEW,
I am laughing in your face
and
right
that
now.
AEW, it wasn't gonna last more than 3 years. Well, we're on year 5, people.
I mean, not for nothing.
Calendar year.
Not for nothing. People said the exact same thing about Impact Wrestling, and Impact Wrestling at this point has been around for over 20.
And same thing with ROH. ROH has been around for over 20 years, even though yes,
good point too.
It's
a lot of people said that about ROH. They're like, oh yeah, there's some small little indie company. They'll never last long. Like a lot of indie promotions don't last long. This whole thing.
I will say this now: AEW is that top dog. Yes, they might not get the viewership and the fans like say like a WWE would, but that's also because WWE has been around for, well over 40, 50, years by now.
Here's the thing of what I will say about WWE is that it is basically created this mindset with people who think they know what pro wrestling is, when in fact they do not.
Right. So we got on to our next match. There's not really much to talk about the match itself, but Blackpool Combat Club does beat some local talent, and then they are not done with a beatdown, and then Daniel,
Bryan Danielson, you mean?
Yes, Bryan Danielson loves the destruction and loves professional wrestling. Says the guys they face were amateurs. And then out comes Hangman Adam Page, and Danielson calls him an amateur. Blackpool Combat Club beat him down. It says the house of AEW needs to be fixed up of amateurs, and then gouges the screwdriver into Hangman's face.
Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah, that was a screwdriver. Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Blackpool Combat Club, I tell you, they are on the wrath of destruction. And I hope it's going to end up with them possibly wanting to go after the World Trios Tag Team titles, because it has to lead to that. Has to.
Yeah.
So we got into our main event of Dynamite as FTR and the Guns face off against each other. It's either titles versus careers.
Such a great.
Will FTR be able to beat the Guns to stay in AEW, or is this the end of the AEW?
Such a great tag team match, man. Like FTR is amazing when it comes to tag team wrestling. Like they just get it.
They kept on 1-2 kick out, 1-2 kick out. You thought, man,
there were so many false
are they going to be able to win it? Are they going to be able?
Well, not
or
to mention,
will the Guns be able to do it? And
not to mention, let's talk about the 2 times that Paul Turner kept the match going when he very easily could have just, called the match off and FTR would no longer be part of AEW. Because the first time was a false finish where I believe Colton was the one who pushed Paul Turner out of the ring to stop the count. Normally, when you do that, it results in a disqualification. But Paul Turner waved it off. He's like, no, you know what? We're not going to end this title match that way. The second time, Austin Gunn gave Cash Wheeler a low blow in front of the referee. And Paul Turner's looking at him like, what are you doing, man? And Austin Gunn's just looking at him. He's like, ring the bell. Ring the bell. And you saw Paul Turner, he's like, and right as he was about to do it, Cash Wheeler is like, no, you are not ringing that bell. You are not ringing that bell. You are keeping the match going. And sure
Yeah,
enough,
they were super determined to be able to win it.
I mean, can you blame them though? Like, we're talking about FTR's AEW careers on the
That's
line
true too.
versus, winning the AEW tag team
I kind
title.
of had a strong feeling that maybe FTR was going to be able to win this match, and I'm grateful that they did. They beat the Guns to win the World Tag Team titles and get to stay in AEW, and out comes Mark
Those
Briscoe to celebrate with them.
those poor ass boys, they were transitional champions.
Yeah, but you kind of figured that that was going to happen. They had a
Yeah.
good 8 week run
Was
as
that
tag.
really how long it was?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's short.
It is, but you know what? They got their title reign.
However, I'm pretty sure they had a longer reign, or at least a shorter reign, I should say, than the Acclaimed did.
Yeah,
Because, I look at it as like, yeah, the Acclaimed got the most out of their tag team title run, but for the most part, it was relatively short. So, now we get
so we got
into
onto the
Rampage,
Rampage
right?
side of
Yep.
things. Huck beats Ethan Page yet again to retain the
Yeah.
FTW World Title, and then
You
puts
knew
him
that was
through
going
the
to happen.
table after the match.
Well, not before Ethan Page put Hook through the table first in that FTW Rules match, which
Yeah, that was a really good match, by the way. Great way
so
to start
that's
Rampage.
really the only difference between the Dynamite match and the Rampage match is on Dynamite it was not FTW Rules, whereas on Rampage it was FTW Rules, and so FTW Rules, for those who may not know, it's basically a false count anywhere.
Yeah. That was a
So,
great, like I said, these two brought it. Fighting in the crowd,
oh yeah.
using the tables and everything like that. But man, I tell you what, Hook is one hell of
Other
a
than
talent.
that, though, there really wasn't a big use of weapons. I mean, because
Like
they set up that table, but they didn't use it in the
nothing against the
match.
FTW title, but Hook is so damn good. You should give him
You should give him at
a
least
TNT
a
title or an
yes.
international championship because he is that damn good. The way that he wrestles, I mean,
Well, not to mention the FTW title isn't even a sanctioned championship
no, it's
in
not.
AEW. So, I mean, I look at it this way: as like at least they're like in a way respecting the heritage. I guess you could say respecting the heritage of the FTW Championship from ECW, but at the same time, it's like there really is no heritage behind the FTW Championship. I mean, like, yeah, Taz held it in ECW. I think at one point even Sabu held it in ECW. But then if we're talking AEW, it was only Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and Hook. So, you know.
Exactly. So we got into our next match. The acclaimed Matt Menard and Angelo Parker beat local jobbers. And then the Jericho Appreciation Society beat down the acclaimed and Billy Gunn after the match.
Yeah.
What does this mean? It's safe to say that the
The Acclaimed
Jericho
were never going to join the Jericho Appreciation Society
it's safe to say that Matt Menard and Angelo Parker had
2.0.
their hands full with the acclaimed and Billy Gunn. Daddy
I
ass.
mean, honestly, like, that's good because then it gives fresh new potential competition to the now new FTW. Oh, wow, I'm sorry, the new tag team champions FTR, um, for potential contenders.
Right.
You know,
Right. Exactly.
because I don't even know anymore if they have like the ranking system. I think that's what they were talking about. There's no more rankings system in AEW, but they're still keeping like win loss records.
Exactly. Yeah, I have noticed that they're not doing the ranking system, which I guess is alright with me. As long as they're still doing the win loss
Well,
record.
and not to mention, as long as we have like number one contenders like matches, basically,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm fine with it. And even like I look at it this way: the ranking system, in theory, was a cool concept, and it
Yeah.
kind of gave like a real sport feel to AEW. But then it just kind of came to the point of like, okay, well, somebody could easily jump the rankings and challenge for a championship, which is kind of like what the UFC does anyways. And it's like, well, what about your number one contender who earned that opportunity?
Right.
Which is like, what happened with FTR. They were the number one contenders for or I should say, they were number one in the rankings for pretty much the entirety of 2022, and then they got their tag title opportunity somewhat, and then it didn't really work in their favor. Now they
Right.
so
So Darby Allin faces off against Lee Moriarty, and beats him. Um, and then looks like the NBC have merged with the Mogul affiliates.
yeah.
What does this mean?
Um,
Um,
well, first and foremost, can we talk about that nasty freaking F10 that Brian Cage gave Darby Allin,
I know
and the
that was crazy.
landing that Darby took off of that F10? Like, my God.
He
Darby's
takes.
gonna shorten his fucking career.
I know he
With,
takes a lot of crazy bumps.
I
Honestly.
mean, not for nothing, Darby asked for it though, because like he said, when it comes to wrestling, he's there for a good time, not a long time. But it's like, Darby, you're talking about your entire life here. Like, yeah, wrestling is one thing, but this is your life.
Right.
You are literally putting your life on the line each and every single time you step into a ring and do this stuff. Like, do you really want to have that short of a life? Yeah.
So we got on to the next match as Julia Hart and Anna
Not much
JAS.
to talk about with that.
Yeah, Julia Hart beats Anna JAS. Then we got Orange Cassidy and
Well, okay,
Dralistico. What's up?
before we get, the only real noteworthy thing to talk about with Anna Jay and Julia Hart is the fact that Anna Jay has a fat ass and a bad attitude.
Yeah.
That's really all you
And
need
that
to know.
Jungle Boy Jack Perry approves.
I mean, at this point, he's Jungle Man with how horny he is for Anna Jay.
Yeah, so Orange Cassidy and Dralistico face off for the International Championship. Man, I tell you, Dralistico is one hell of a talent. I mean, he was just beating the holy hell out of Orange Cassidy.
I mean, not for nothing. At one
And
point,
then we
he
did
was supposed to be the
and also
original
Orange Cassidy did do, the original,
Mystico.
right?
At one point, he was supposed to be like the original Mystico. And for those that don't know, well, okay, no, not the original Mystico, but at one point he did don that mask, or at least that persona of Mystico. And for those that don't know, Mystico was the original Sin Cara. So,
Mm-hmm.
but anyways, back to
Yeah, so Dralistico, was beating up Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy is, again, one hell of a talent. He was trying to put his hands in his pocket, and Dralistico was just not having it. And then that's when he did the, oh,
he freaking broke his legs with those devastating kicks.
man, those devastating kicks.
They can break a leg, man.
but
I'm telling you. I would not want to be on the receiving end.
But ultimately, afterwards, we got an orange punch. 1, 2, 3. Orange Cassidy retains against Dralistico. And then the House of Blacks, Buddy Matthews seems to issue the challenge to Orange Cassidy. And yes, it's official that Orange Cassidy and Buddy Matthews will face off for the International Championship later tonight on Dynamite. Thoughts on that one?
Normally, I would say that Orange Cassidy is in for his eternal doom. But I tell you what, man, Orange Cassidy has been on a hell of a run with that international championship. And it's just going to be another W for Orange Cassidy.
Right. So Jay Lethal wants to work together with Mark Briscoe, but then Mark is like, "Oh, is it just gonna be, is it just you? Yeah, I'll go with it." And then all of a sudden you get
You see
Jeff
Satnam,
Jeff
Jeff
Jarrett,
Jarrett, and
and then Mark's like,
Mark is like, "Hey, what is this, Jay? Like, I didn't agree to this."
"So what does this truly mean? Like, is this gonna be?"
I think it means that Mark Briscoe unintentionally got himself involved with Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna join up with them. I think he's gonna be too
No,
involved
he's
with the Lucha
yeah.
Brothers, which it would be cool to see them go after the ROH six-man tag team titles. To be honest with you, that would be awesome.
Either that or even the AEW trios titles.
Could happen
Like
too.
either way, I would love to see Jay Briscoe win
Oh,
a
Mark
six
Briscoe.
or yes, I'm sorry, Mark Briscoe. It would be cool to see Mark Briscoe have another run with the six-man tag team titles because some might forget that along with his brother Jay and Bully Ray, Mark Briscoe has held one has had one reign with the ROH World Six-Man Tag Team titles.
Oh wow, nice.
It's kind. I don't know how long the reign lasted, but it's kind of forgettable, and because I'm sure not a lot of people remember it, and even more so, not a lot of people talk about it. So yeah, but
And then we get
main event of yeah, that was the main event of.
yeah, and then Jade Cargill beats Billy Starks, and then
Wait,
Lucha.
no, was it? Wasn't that?
Well, this is still ROH. No, Jade Cargill and Billy Starks was still Battle of the Belt 6. And then Lucha Brothers
So
versus
wait,
QT Marshall
yeah.
and Powerhouse Hobbs was the main event of Battle of the Belt 6. And then Mark
Are
Briscoe.
we talking about Battle of the Belt 6 now then? Or is this still Rampage?
This is Battle of the Belt 6. The main event of Rampage
Oh,
was
okay, I
Julia
see
Hart
now.
versus Anna JAS.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jade Cargill beats Billy Starks. Nothing
My
about
mistake,
that.
people. I'm not with it.
And then we got into our main event as the Lucha Brothers face off against QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs. And all they beat them. They retained the ROH World Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
So we get on to the
ROH
side of things as Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers face off against Shane Taylor and the Workhorsemen.
Which was an odd. It was an odd pairing, at least on the side of Shane Taylor with the Workhorsemen. Because
I'll tell you what, Mark Briscoe and his freaking redneck kung fu, man.
Oh, I know. Well, but either
One
way,
hell of a
like
talent.
Shane Taylor has his promotions. Like, so why is he with the Workhorsemen?
It was a weird pairing,
Yeah.
but let me tell you something.
I mean, either way, it didn't really matter because Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers ended up getting the win.
Right, and then Shane Taylor, man, he is one hell of a talent. Was beating the hell out of Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah,
but,
don't underestimate Shane Taylor.
No. But ultimately, yes, Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers look poised as they beat Shane Taylor and the Workhorsemen.
I didn't even realize the next match became official because, like, I had seen. Because like I had seen the opening to the episode,
yeah, I was really going to say.
I was like, wait,
how he was going to challenge,
turning this into a match like for next week? And then next thing you know, Riccaboni was like, up next, Katsuyori Shibata taking on. I was like, oh, this was kind of impromptu in a way, but okay.
Yeah, so Katsuyori Shibata and Christopher Daniels
faced off for the Pure Wrestling Championship.
And apparently, it might have been the first time since Christopher Daniels challenged Nigel McGuinness for the Pure Wrestling Championship in 2005.
Is it really the first time that Daniels has challenged for the Pure Wrestling title since then?
Apparently, that's what they said because, I mean,
I mean, I can believe it, honestly, because, Christopher Daniels has really only ever been like the
but man,
television champion or like
Katsuyori
the.
Shibata was forcing Christopher Daniels to use up his
Yeah,
rope breaks
Christopher
early.
Daniels ended up using 2 of his rope breaks.
Christopher Daniels wasn't able to really get much offense on Katsuyori
No.
Shibata. He had to play defense most of the match. He wasn't able to get any angel's wings or
Hmm.
most of his main moves on Shibata. Shibata was eating up some chops too,
Oh
man.
yeah.
I don't understand how he just can eat up those chops and just act like it doesn't even faze him. Like that man is just built different. His chest
There's a
must
reason
be
he's called the wrestler.
his chest must be made of metal or something like that because.
I don't know, man. He must have some kind of like steel
But
plate in
yes,
his chest.
Katsuyori Shibata.
The match lasted a little over 10 minutes.
I mean,
I saw the time limit. It said
he
like
made
10:06.
he made Christopher Daniels
No, no,
fade not tap.
he had him in the sleeper and like made him like kind of sink down. But I think that was the same thing that he did to Wheeler at Supercard of Honor because it basically set up Shibata to hit the PK and get the win.
So yeah, he beats Christopher Daniels to retain the Pure Wrestling Championship. Claudio Castagnoli looks to defend his title against anyone, anywhere. Thoughts? It'll be interesting who's going to be the next challenger for the ROH World Championship. It really will.
Yeah.
Well, we finally got to see somebody that we have not seen in a long time. Ortiz makes his ROH debut
now
and gets beat by Brian Cage.
Commentary made an interesting point. It's like, well, he's this is his ROH debut, and we kind of wonder, it's like, did he follow Eddie Kingston to ROH, or is he gonna try and like talk some sense into?
He might have followed him there. I tell you what. Now that Dante Martin is hurt, Darius Martin might get a chance to showcase himself as a singles guy as he faced off against Jay Lethal. But Darius might have the same thing that happened to Dante Martin, where Dante Martin had to lose a bunch of matches before he could start getting up there as a top talent.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Is like Darius has to do something now that and I'm sure it feels weird for Darius because like usually it's him in that situation and Dante is the one that has to step up and like kind of branch off on his own, but now it's Darius because Dante suffered that very, very horrible, gruesome injury at Supercard of Honor. And, hey, prayers to Dante. I believe they had mentioned it on Dynamite, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it was ROH. But either way, I heard it on commentary somewhere on like one of that Dante Martin underwent a successful surgery.
Right.
So now he's essentially recovered.
Well, Jay Lethal was able to beat Darius Martin with the help of Matt Taven.
Yeah.
Matt Taven got involved, and then Jay Lethal hit Darius Martin with a lethal injection of 1, 2, 3.
I look at it this way: a lot of plates and a lot of screws to repair Dante's leg.
I believe it.
Well, and if not that, you know what they gave? I'm sorry. You know what they gave Alex Smith, right? That little like brace thing or whatever, where it's like screws or like whatever hanging out.
Yes.
That's pretty much what they're gonna have. What they are gonna have to give to Dante.
Oh, yes and no.
Well, I mean, either way, Dante Martin is going to have to learn how to walk again.
So we're talking about Drew Listigo. Well, Drew Listigo and Arush face off against the infantry of Sean Dean and
His partner, I don't remember his name.
Bad Edge, or well, they both served in the military,
Yeah.
so.
Like I said,
But yeah, Drew Listigo and Arush beat the infantry.
Yeah.
There's not really much to talk about that one. Daniel Garcia faced off against Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Daniel Garcia gets the victory there. Then Willow Nightingale faced off against Notorious Mimi.
Yeah.
Gets the victory there. I mean,
just a local name.
Just like the next one, Righteous beat the Even Stevens. I mean,
that name was like, when I first heard that, I'm like, really? Ring of Honor has a team called the Even Stevens? Like, really?
This one, Kenosuke Takeshita and Tony Nese, man, this was a great match.
I hope that Takeshita celebrated with all of the Cinnabon in Long Island.
Takeshita, I mean, like, was able to really get it, bring the energy.
Bring the energy, bring the heat
against Tony Nese, yes. Like, Tony Nese, tried to get running Nese.
Tried to get the running Nese, yeah.
And then Kenosuke Takeshita, I mean, he is going to be a star one of these days. He really is.
And that's the thing, too, about Takeshita, is, like, he's still technically part of the DDT roster.
Mm-hmm.
So, he can still feel free to tour Japan if he feels like it, while also still being under contract with AEW.
Right.
So that's the beauty of it, is like, technically he's contracted to 2 places at once, which is a bit weird, but at the same time, I think that at least like one contract is, I don't know how it works. But either way, I know that he is free to travel to Japan to take dates for DDT.
Right. And then we got into our main event of ROH as Athena faces off against Miyu Yamashita. And no, ring announcer, it's not Yamashita.
Oh, I know. That bothered me, because
Bobby
Cruz had pronounced her name as Mayu Yamashita. It's like,
and then
no.
I found it hilarious that the commentators
acknowledged it. They were, because I think it was Caprice.
Because they said Yamashita.
I think it was Caprice that.
Well, at least you could get his name right.
Yeah.
Or her name right.
Yeah. I think it was Caprice that was like, Miyu Yamashita here. And I think Riccaboni was the one who was like, well, at least you can pronounce her name right. Bobby Cruz, our ring announcer. I was like, wow, all right, Riccaboni, throwing shade at Bobby Cruz.
That's why I love the ROH and AEW commentary, because they just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's unscripted. Like, they will literally call somebody out on live,
Well, I mean,
television.
In this case, it's taped, but same idea. It's like, they'll just, that's kind of been ROH's like MO, is when somebody like messes up, they will call them out on it. So
Athena and Miyu Yamashita, they went against each other. They really brought it. Athena is one hell of a freaking talent, and it's just sad that AEW
she's
didn't
coming
really.
To her own as it's
just
ROH
sad that AEW
man.
didn't see her much as a women's wrestler on that brand. But I'm grateful that Tony Khan is making up for it with Athena in ROH, because I tell you, she is one hell of a talent.
Yeah.
Because if she was ever to lose that ROH Women's World Championship, I think you should do something with her on AEW. I get it.
Well,
that women's division in the AEW isn't as great as ROH's.
Yeah.
But still, you gotta do something.
I look at it. I kind of feel the opposite, because I think if Athena were to ever lose the ROH Women's World title, I don't know how she bounces back. I don't know if she can bounce back, quite frankly. And that's sad for Athena because, like, if she loses the ROH Women's World title, how do you have her bounce back? Like, what? Do you have her challenge Jade Cargill again? We all know how that went. You should have gave Athena the TBS title right then and there, but you wanted to keep Jade at this undefeated streak. It's like, well, now that Jade has passed 50 and 0, why are they continuing her streak? Especially with that TBS title. Like, she needs to lose that title.
Also, Athena, as much as I like to know what color underwear you maybe are wearing, but can you please make sure? I know that sounds very bad for me to say.
Dude,
But
you're gonna get canceled. You're gonna get us canceled, dude. What are you doing?
but please do us all a favor and
Keep your pants up.
and,
Yeah.
and wear what is called a belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
That might help.
or get some newer gear that might
Yeah,
actually like
yeah.
not fall down all the time.
I mean, to be fair, oh my god. To be fair, Athena does have a pretty big ass that really can't keep her pants up.
Okay. Before we really get canceled, we're gonna have to leave it at that.
We're going off the rails.
But
man.
yes, Athena does beat Mio Yamashita to retain the ROH Women's World Championship. Makes you wonder who's next on her target list.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Please make sure to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to get notified when our video is released. It would definitely help us beneficially. Thank you for any of all the people that have subscribed. We've gotten 2 new subscribers. Please, for anybody that does watch it that is not subscribed, please make sure to subscribe and get the word around, because without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah.
So, of course, you want to follow us right over there in that channel right there, Tinkle Sports Entertainment on YouTube. That's where you can watch most of our videos, as well as Sunday Morning Tinkle every Sunday at 9, and then Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. As always, we will catch you in the next episode. Goodbye, everyone.